Yo, welcome to Under the Influence Cocktails and Consciousness. This is a critical thinking platform where we talk about issues that are important to the black millennial and then some issues that are not so important. As we know, sometimes these issues are tough, so we handle them with a cocktail. Yo, it's your host, Caleb, and with me right here to my left is the lovely Ivory.
Hi.
Hey. So we into it, man, because it's a serious time in America. This is a very revolutionary time, and we definitely want to keep that ball rolling. So let's jump into it. And y'all know what we talking about is the University of Missouri. The our first video, I believe we call it activism, no racism, hunger strikes, and football. Well, basically, it's centered around the same thing, but this is the going forward from what initially happened. All right, and we're talking about this because a lot of times, me and Ivory were actually talking about it. A lot of times, black people, we become stagnant sometimes, and we celebrate small victories too much. You know, it's good to know that, hey, you know what? After all the shit we put up with, after all the things we go through, after all the tragedies, you know, it's good to finally get some points on the board. But you gotta understand, this is a game, and this shit is not in the fourth quarter. Literally, it is as far as the severity of it, but it's not in the fourth quarter. This shit's gonna be ongoing. We gotta keep playing ball, you know, and actually coach. You know, I tell the kids, like, you know, they always score a point and they want to celebrate, like, hey, you know, they clap their hands, fist bumping, chest bumping, and then the kids, the other team gets the ball, throw the ball down, and scores right quick, and then it's like, oh shit, now it's back tied up. But in our case, we still losing, so we can't afford to even give up no points. It's a blowout right now. All right, so let's get into it, man. Ivory, what do you think about so reflect. Give me some of your thoughts.
Well, I've been reflecting for a few days on the Mizzou. I don't necessarily like to call it a protest, so I'm still trying to figure out a name for it. But the Mizzou resistance, I'll say. Like, I've been thinking about that. I've been like really reflecting on it for the past couple of days. Like when I first heard the news, you know, it's something that kind of like piqued my interest. But as time has gone on, I just kind of started to grow in my understanding of it and kind of have like this new idea of, you know, what I believe about it. And so, number one, I'm really kind of like humbled by the students and their bravery and their ability to like speak up and speak out against like the microaggressions that happen to them on an everyday basis on campus. So what I mean by microaggression, if people aren't aware, it's those small nuances of racism that you're expected not to react to, but you know that they exist, and so, or you know that they're there, and it could be something small. It's like maybe somebody commenting on your hairstyle to something as evident as like you walking by and somebody saying something racially insensitive or having a conversation that's, you know, racially insensitive, and it's constantly kind of like chipping away at like your mental state, and you get to a point where like you kind of implode because you get tired of it. And so that's essentially what happened with these students. Like they had microaggression, but they also had some like really direct issues happening, and there was nobody advocating on their behalf. They paid tuition on this campus, so it was spearheaded by one, you know, young man to go on the resistance and do a hunger strike. And I say I'm humbled by that, because when you are willing to sacrifice, like, you know, your livelihood and your well-being and and things that make you comfortable on an everyday basis for something that's bigger than you have to take your hat off to that. Like that's not something that like, and I feel like I'm a part of like this whole movement of creating change, and I do it through like working with young people in education. But I have never gotten to the point, and I don't know if I ever could, where you sacrifice your livelihood for something like that. And so that's one. And then for him to be able to bring this collective of other young people, which trickle down to like the athletes on campus. And so I know we wanted to get into like this whole idea of like that's where it really kind of peaked. Its attention is when the athletes got involved. So, you being like, a former college athlete, what do you think about that?
Me being black first, first and foremost,
Black first.
black first, first and foremost, because, I was black way before I played basketball,
Right.
and it's because I'm black that I was able to probably excel at basketball, you know what I mean? So I was there. But what I'll say is this, as a black person, I'm looking at the past, I'm looking at the present, and I'm trying my best to envision the future, you know. And while I'm doing this, because we just watched me and Ivory and I, we recently watched a documentary on Grace Lee Boggs, and if you don't know that name, you gotta go check her out.
Yeah, definitely.
Grace Lee Boggs, but she's an older civil rights activist, and the tipper is that she's actually Asian. She's an Asian American, and she, like I said, go check her out. But
Right.
the thing about it is, she's in her old age. She used to be a radical. Now she's very, very optimistic, very, very upgrade forward and evolutionary. She's an evolutionary thinker. You know what I mean? She's not thinking in that same savage way that is still displayed today. Now, this is where I'm going with that, right? Now, not to say that there was a violent protest or violence things going on the campus of Missouri, because it wasn't. As we know, I think the most critical thing was the hunger strike by the young man. When I want to talk about him also, because that's a whole different ball game also, and that's a whole different. He's our sixth man. We talk about this as a game, right? I mean, it's gonna be basketball because I love that game. He's our sixth man, all right, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But this is what's happening, right? We've been protesting, we've been congregating, we've been rallying, we've been doing all these things ever since Dr. King, ever since Malcolm X, and before then. You know what I mean? It's time for a change. It's time that we do something different. And it's like this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But as we know, that's kind of broken, because we're not getting no changes from that. But what we did see with the University of Missouri is we saw a new player come on the court, and that's this thing that's always been there. The sleeping giant is now woken, and that is the black athlete, preferably, or in this case, the black college athlete. Because I'm telling you, we didn't watch School Days. Anybody remember School Days, Lawrence Fishburne and everything like that? Speaking of School Days, my man Spike, we saw Lawrence Fishburne character. We saw how revolutionary he was on campus. We've been had cats like that on campus for a long time, but we haven't gotten change or much change. But in 72 hours, they said, "Yo, we not going on the field. Y'all getting ready to lose $1 million," and the game was over. I keep telling people that man resigned because he had to resign. He was going. They gave him the benefit of the doubt. He's a good old boy. They gave him the benefit of the doubt. Hey, you know what? Wolf boy, Wolfie Ben, whatever, Wolfmeister, go ahead and step down. You know what I mean? That way we don't have to, fire you and put a blemish on your resume, because he's going to another university. He's going to get another job. That's just the case with it. So who really loses? You know what I mean? But what happened, like I said, is this team stepped down and it shut the game down. You know what I mean? Now, like we also talked, Ivory and I, and I've talked to, some associates of mine, and I do not take away any credit from the students who are the activists, because they are the brainchild, which was the spearheaded everything else. So you do need those folks who ain't. And speaking of both cases, we do need those folks who are actually in the library or studying, because they have time and they have the awareness and consciousness to. When the athlete is slaving away at practice, at film, at games, on the road, tired as hell. You know what I mean? Not to give them a benefit of the doubt and say, oh, they can't do both, or they just athletes, but that's the case. And they're not getting paid for it. Keep that in mind. They slaves. So some of the I don't say house, I don't want to go that deep, but some of the people who are able to do that, they were able to say, hey, psst, 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 if y'all do this, such and such, and that spearheaded it, and that's dope. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, that's the new method. That's the go-to now. It's like every back to basketball when Allen Iverson shook Michael Jordan up with the crossover. That was Al Iverson's crossover. From he been doing it before then, but after he did that, dude, it was over. That was his go-to move. You use your go-to move. So everybody across and let me I don't keep ranting. Let me
Yeah.
go ahead. All right, man. Look, because it's like this. Missouri is one school. The University of Missouri is one school, and they really ain't that great, honestly, in the grand scheme of the whole thing. We need those top schools like in the SEC, University of Kentucky, Louisville. We need those players to be like, yo, matter of fact, they already started the game off. In fact, we not even gonna play this season at all until we get paid. Now we know what it is. Now we know y'all really want that money.
I don't think it's fair for you to say that though, like in terms of like if whatever their athletic ability is, like that it doesn't take away from like the fact that they made a huge influence on
Who?
what happened
We talking
the Mizzou
Oh yeah,
football
yeah, yeah.
players.
No, but
Because you're
see,
saying like they're not that great, so we need like other like I guess better known like teams to do the same thing. But
no, I'm not
like
saying that.
I mean that's
Okay, let
literally
me
what
clear
you
it up.
just
Let me clear
said.
it up. Let me clear it up. One man can't change the world. That's just the truth. One school is not going to be the thing that makes everybody have a conscience and say, hey, you know what? That damn Missouri, we should stop because those kids are getting death threats right now. Those kids are leaving and going home right now.
That's gonna happen whenever you push like whenever you challenge the mainstream way of doing things, like that's going to happen, especially when you are challenging like white privilege. Like that's gonna happen whether it's a well-known campus or not, or whether like it's a team that wins games or not. Like whenever you challenge that, when you push back, and whenever you refuse to play their game, then you're gonna get those threats. So
Yeah.
I mean,
But the thing about it is you're gonna get it anyway. That's the thing. People always want to sit back and say, you know what? Maybe it ain't gonna happen here. If we just chill out, it's gonna happen anyway. It's gonna happen anyway. So let's go ahead and get it over with. They done kicked it off. All right. You know what? We done had racism going on our campus right now. It ain't getting news because I'm telling you right now. Listen to me. UK, University of Kentucky. I'm telling you they got racism on their campus, dude. Louisville. All these is just exist in the world. This is not it's not the only thing happening in only Missouri.
yeah, of course.
So it's like now galvanize everybody, every school. Use Missouri as the that's the precedent. Everybody else got to fall in line now though. So I'm not saying to diminish Missouri, but it's like that one win in Missouri is not going to win the game of college sports. It's not going to change racism. It changed it there, but it can change it in that same method everywhere.
There, but because nothing happens changes overnight. But what happens is you see something like that, and it triggers something in you to be inspired and do the same thing. And so like that's ultimately the goal. And like a lot of other campuses have been now coming out and speaking up. And I know that you're focusing primarily on the athletes. And
I wonder why everybody else not. That's really what I'm wondering. Why everybody else is not.
I mean, you know the answer to that. It's the same reason why, like, lots of people that didn't. When there was when they experienced some level of racism, even as athletes, like, you know the answer.
No, I don't know the answer because now we see it. It's like this. Why isn't everybody like hit the pockets? Why is everybody still like, hey, that was cool? And maybe
It's not feeling number one, not feeling empowered that it will actually happen, and feeling afraid to take that risk because maybe they're not ready for the backlash
ain't talking about the
that our
kids.
students are.
Not the kids per se. I
Okay,
mean,
we're talking about college,
yeah,
right? So
yeah. I'm talking about the pundits, the people who are telling the masses of people why everybody is not. Why isn't everybody like, okay, yo, activism done,
like,
pockets,
okay, who are you talking about specifically?
all like literally, like like everybody. What do you mean, like okay? Let me. I'm gonna say okay. I don't say everybody, but like Black Twitter. Social media. That's really what it is. That's everybody. When I say everybody from now on, no, I'm talking about social media. Because that's really what everybody, that's what you get everybody news. And everybody's like, yeah, hooray to the, we gotta, and now they sparking more protest. But it's like, I'm looking through timelines and I'm still seeing people going somewhere to protest somewhere. I'm like, why? Fine. If it's not somewhere where your protest can hit a pocket, protest dead.
Yeah.
That should be what it is now. It's like, no, them niggas hitting pockets. Matter of fact, this issue don't even hit pockets. Nope, we can't do it because the president's higher now. It's like once you eat lobster, you don't want to ever eat spam again.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, I
You know what I'm
think
saying?
that also like it takes a mind state that a lot of people don't get overnight. Like purchasing from putting money in white pockets is so deeply embedded into like everyday lives of all people that to choose not to do that takes like an extreme intention, and it takes a lot of pre-planning. Like you have to reroute how you live your life. So it's bigger than just, or it's more than just like something impulsive like that. Like, and it's probably big. It takes more preparation than even the athlete choosing not to play that day. Like for everyday people whose lives are very much so unfortunately connected to putting emphasis on money and into like white pockets. That's a different way of thinking and planning that has to take place. Like it just does. Like, so I think that's a part of it also.
And that's my next point. As far as like we said, us regrouping and going forward now, because there's going to be a backlash. We already have, like we said, we have the death threats going on, but these kids, if we leave Missouri out there to dry, it's going to be terrible for the kids. And I'll tell you this why, because the NFL is where all those kids want to go. That's the only reason why they will go to school with most of them. Because like I said, I never want to take anything completely away from education, for those who really are striving for that. But since we have a system, if you research it, which is very inadequate when it comes to educating the students, with their rigorous schedules, a lot of them, the graduation rate is very low. Coaches don't care. This is the type of system we have. So the thing about it is this. The NFL is what these kids are aiming to go. But the NFL is very, very anti-activism. You don't get in. You literally don't get in. No matter how good you are, you become an activist. Now, the dude actually, I forgot his name right now. He just slipped my mind. What was the football player we talked about him last time?
There you go.
Michael Sam. My man Sam. But he became an advocate for gay rights. And he came out and he wasn't they say that's one of the reasons why he's blackballed. Let's leave it at that. And it might have something to do with it. But these kids who are the stars who could potentially make the NFL from Missouri, they're going to get blackballed if nobody else comes out.
So you're basically saying athletes as a collective have to come out so that they give the recruiters and the people in the NFL no choice. Because they could be like, okay, you want to be on that. You want to be an activist. I'll go to this other player. Like,
there's 1 year.
Because there was a guy I think it was on Fox, and he said something. It was a white guy alluding to the fact that like, if they don't want to play, fine, don't let them play. We'll go find some other kids that'll play.
That's exactly what happens.
And so that's a very good point. Like they need to come together collectively, but I think it's also important not to minimize what they've done, because it's still important to really celebrate and acknowledge what they've done, even in sacrificing a potential career. Like they did something that a lot of people aren't able to do.
You know what they did?
We have to be able to like just sit in that for a moment and acknowledge it. Don't minimize it, even if nothing comes out of it for them immediately. Like, that's important.
Yeah, I'd rather be a crowd than kings. I'd rather there be a crowd than kings. And I'll tell you this why. I read a book one time called The 48 Laws of Power. And they say nobody wants to be king because the king gets his head chopped off. Missouri is king now. They're kings. Those are kings now. But it has to become a crowd for those kids not to get their head chopped off. Because this happened 1 year. So that's at most, and you got to be a junior or senior, I believe, to be in the NFL. They don't draft sophomores or freshmen. So what's it for NFL scouts to say, okay, for 2 years, we're blackballing Missouri. We're not even looking at the kids at all. We only recruiting around them. So they get fucked for being kings. And the whole effect gets washed away. Everybody has to jump on board right now. All right, but yeah, so that's the Sports Center portion of this shit, man. I'm telling you, because that's gonna be big. But let's get into a little bit more of the background, a little bit more of the small heroes in this. Well, not even small heroes, but the sixth man. Let's talk about the X Factor. My man who went hungry for these folks.
He
ain't go ham. He went hungry on their ass.
He was definitely not a small hero. Like, he was the leader in this. He created a movement by being brave enough to take a stand. Now, there has been, as to be expected, backlash. There has been like this conspiracy to kind of like regard him and make him seem as though he was a fraud. So somebody, I don't know who, put out information about him actually coming from a very like well-off, wealthy family. And so they tried to send this message that like, oh, you know, his family is worth like 20 million, I think is what I read. So what does he look like being out here trying to like fight for the rights of the least of these when like he's a millionaire, his people's a millionaire? That seems phony, right? But in actuality, whoever tried to come out with that agenda really helped him out, because in my opinion, it's even more noble of you, it's even more of an applaud to step out of yourself and your privilege and sacrifice what you know to be true. Like, and also on the flip side, even with money and you know, having access to resources, there's still, when you black, I've always said this, when you black, you still experience levels of racism and levels of inequality. And so maybe coming from that privileged background, he was like, oh, fuck this shit. This is not what I am used to, and this is not how it's supposed to be for me. And so I'm taking a stand. So, I mean, his family coming from money has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that, like, he was not taking that shit from that campus. Like, it doesn't add up. So, kudos to this young guy.
Pound sign go hungry, my nigga. Hey, that's my new thing. I'm straight up. No more going, hey, I don't know why that just hit me, but no more going ham. Because we ain't going ham no more. We going hungry. We don't need none of this shit. We don't need none of y'all shit at all. That's the new attitude. We don't need none of y'all shit. Boycott Christmas, boycott all that bullshit. Go hungry. We'll talk more about that, though.
You going hungry now?
We going hungry. Pound sign, go hungry. Okay, I want to see
you not eat nothing.
No, see, it's more me. It's deeper. We're going to talk about that as a show. That means boycott all this shit. We don't need none of that shit. We going to starve them out.
Caleb, I just want to see you do it before you start going on these rants.
All right, man. Fine, man. Hey, you know, I might just, but hey, look. Okay, I have the utmost respect for his family is worth $20 million. His dad's a railroad. He does something with railroad. He's a big railroad tycoon guy. And I am like, wow. You know, he reminds me of the story. What was what's the biblical story? But this is Moses. He spoke both languages. He came from rich, but he was around the poor, and he spoke up for the poor.
You asking the wrong person.
All right. But I believe that's Moses, man.
I think it was. Let my
the
people
Pharisee,
go.
Yeah, you know, and he came from rich, you know what I mean? And I love, man, you know what? Because there's a comedian named Jeff Brown who always says nothing's going to change until P. Diddy and a homeless man is running down the street and running from the same person. And that is truth. Because wealth is not in material things. Wealth is in people. And this man understood that. If he's worth $20 million, I bet he's very well educated, very well versed, and it's probably why he understood that. You know, So I definitely am happy about him coming out. And he is the X Factor man, six man. You know, that's the guy who you want leading the world.
Why do you say?
You don't want to find them cats at Harvard and Yale and everything like that because those are becoming business minds. Those people are bred to lead corporations. A person who will give up everything for the people, he gave up his appetite, pound sound go hungry. He gave up the chance. I mean, who knows how long he would have stayed hungry. That's like an extremity of the body. When you go back from being normal to starve yourself, it's a chance it can have all type of shit could happen. He gave up himself for this. That's the person you want leading the world. That's honest Abe. That's honest Abe. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah. So that's just what it is, man. What do you
His
think?
name is Jonathan Butler. So I want to make sure that that's clear for everybody. But I'm just still trying to draw the conclusion on what the heck did him having money have to do with like him going like not he shouldn't go on strike against like racism and harassment on campus. Like
I have a
that's
theory, and
that
I could
doesn't
be
add
wrong,
up.
but I have a theory, and I could be very wrong. I just came to my mind right now, and I could be very wrong. But like, I think for one, it makes me think that that's somebody on campus who put that out, because campus people know who's on the campus.
Right.
So I believe it was a Caucasian on campus, and somebody who I think that's their code. When you have a lot of money, right, you don't come out, you don't break the code and come out and risk everybody losing shit. Because it's like everybody's gonna lose something if you come out and say something. Like, what are you doing? And they turn on each other for that shit. So I think this was him in anger and not knowing who he was talking to, not knowing his crowd. He came out, and we as black people think opposite. Black people try to downplay themselves to not even if they're gonna be around at all, to not look like they have so much shit.
What? Clarify that for me, please.
Okay, basically his statement would have worked if that was like a rich white kid who did that. Like, what are you doing? He would be detested by the community. But we don't look at it like that. We like, yo, this is shit. This is what's up. This is unusual for us.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I think it was a disgruntled student on campus. That's what I believe. That's who I think came out with that news.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the topics we want to cover, man. And just going forward, like we say, the biggest thing is the fact that we have the awakeners, the people who wake you up. We have those who need to be awoken, and then we have a plan to stick to that is new and it's new and it worked. Let's stick to it until it don't work. But for some reason, I really believe this plan is gonna work.
But what's that plan for?
The plan is for the athletes. You know, because I want to do a show. I mean, people have to know the type of revenue that's there. Literally, I feel like a lot of things could be built from the athletes. Because once you better yourself, you can better others.
That mindset has to be changed. I think this situation was a bit unique because possibly it could have been like the stars aligned where like these young men were not only athletes, but they were, intellectual and, they possibly had a brain that they used frequently as opposed to like, I hate to say it, but a lot of our athletes who are college athletes are not necessarily there for academics, and so maybe that's not their strong suit to think critically. That they know that racism exists, they know that they have experienced it on some levels, but maybe since they were like literally little boys, they have been trained and bred to just run and catch and throw and jump, and that's it. And so it's vitally important for especially our young black men when they are growing up in an athletic space to have that balance of it's nothing wrong with being an athlete and growing in that trade, but also our parents out there and even our coaches need to be able to make it equally important for our young men to be able to like read and write and think critically and be able to answer hard questions or not even be able to have answers for them, but to be able to ask hard questions. Like that's also important in this new wave, in this new generation, in this black millennial generation. We have to be more than just athletes. We have to be we have to be conscious athletes. I think that that's vital if we want to see real change happen. So, yeah.
There you have it. So, man, like, let this be the new talk, man. Let us know what you think about this for sure. Because we definitely, want to know what you think. And don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video, man. Get the discussion going. And don't forget to subscribe to Under the Influence Cocktails and Consciousness. # hungry. Go hungry. # go hungry. Later.
Bye.